I've always believed that if there was one place that I would want to be when the shizzy hits the fizzy, it would be my closet. It has all of my favorite things and all of my favorite hiding places. There's just something about being surrounded by my favorite clothes, my shoes, my accessories, everything that makes me feel like me. In fact, when I was younger, I would spend hours and hours in my closet playing dress-up with all of the different outfits that I could make. I had such a wonderful time. So it should come as no surprise that when the lockdown happened in March of 2020, the first place that I went to hide was my closet. For the first few months, it was nice. I had all of my snacks in there. I had my water bottle in there. I had books. I had movies. I had everything I needed to survive. And then after a while, I started to notice some strange things happening in my closet. And at first I thought it was just because I was going crazy from being stuck inside. But then it got worse and worse and worse. And then I realized something was living in my closet. This is a story about loss, grief, but mostly about the process of letting go of someone who's still alive. This is something that I struggle with every single day. There were many red flags during the 3 years that I was dating my ex-boyfriend. The most obvious one was that he made me feel really bad about myself, especially in regards to how much I ate. Whenever we would go out, he would always tell me, "You can skip dessert. You had enough to eat." Or whenever I would accidentally have seconds at a buffet, he would tell me, "Are you sure you're hungry? Or are you just eating because you're bored?" He also told me what I should wear based on how my body looked in certain clothes. For example, that dress makes you look fat. So naturally, when I started seeing my therapist, one of the things that I talked about with her was how I dealt with my feelings of shame around food and my body image. She helped me realize that a lot of this shame came from the way that I was treated when I was younger, which is why it was so easy for me to let someone like my ex-boyfriend into my life. One day I decided that I wanted to do something bold. I wanted to wear something that I felt amazing in, even though my ex-boyfriend would probably hate it. So I went to my closet, and I pulled out this dress. It's purple, it's silky, it's flowy, it's a little bit above the knee. I haven't worn it in years. The last time I wore it, I felt so beautiful. And when I looked in the mirror, I didn't see the fat girl that I always saw before. I saw me. When my ex-boyfriend saw me in the dress, he said nothing. But later on, when we were home, he told me, "I'm not really a fan of purple. It doesn't look good on you. You should stick to black." Immediately, I felt my stomach clench. Here we go again. Over the next few weeks, I continued to experiment with my style. Every time I wore something that I felt amazing in, my ex-boyfriend told me how much he hated it. And every time he criticized me, I felt my spirit break a little bit more and more and more. At one point, I even asked him, "So what am I allowed to wear?" He said, "Anything black. That way you'll look thinner." It wasn't until a month after our breakup that I realized why he did this. As soon as I moved out of his apartment and I started living on my own, he started bombarding me with texts. Most of these texts were along the lines of, "How are you doing? What are you up to? What did you eat today?" Some of them were nice, but a lot of them were actually really angry, and they were filled with accusations. He accused me of gaining weight, accused me of partying too much, he accused me of going out with other guys. Whenever I would respond to his texts, he would always respond with something negative. For example, "Oh, so you're still thinking about me? Or are you crying? If you are, that's disgusting." I stopped responding to him almost immediately after this happened, and I blocked him on all social media platforms. A week went by, and I started to receive text messages from his friends. These text messages were filled with accusations as well. They told me that I was psycho. They told me that I was crazy. They told me that I was toxic. One of them even told me, "You deserve to die." A few days later, I started getting text messages from his parents. The messages were very vague. He said, "Hope you're doing well, and take care of yourself." I blocked both sets of parents as well. Then something really bizarre started to happen. I began receiving text messages from numbers that I didn't recognize. Most of these numbers were in my country, but a few of them were international. I initially ignored these calls and messages, but eventually I caved, and I decided to answer one of them. On the other end was a woman who claimed to be my ex-boyfriend's sister. She asked me why I was bothering her family and told me that she hoped I died. We exchanged a few more words and then she hung up on me. Later that day, I received another call from her. She told me that she was calling from a blocked number so that I would answer, and then she called me a bunch of horrible names and hung up on me again. After this happened a few times, I started to panic. Who was my ex-boyfriend telling these people about me? What did he say about me? Why did he paint me out to be such a horrible person? Was this why he broke up with me? To get back at me by ruining my reputation? As time went on, these text messages became more and more frequent. They would come in at all hours of the night. Sometimes they would wake me up in the middle of the night. Sometimes they would come in right before I went into an important meeting. It got to the point where I couldn't take it anymore. I went to my phone company and I asked them to block all incoming calls and messages. They told me that they could undo that unless I gave them a list of all of the numbers that needed to be blocked. And of course, this was easier said than done. How was I supposed to remember all of the numbers that were calling me? Plus, he kept changing his number. So whatever number I blocked, he would just call me from another one. And then one day I was online, and I found something that helped me. There's a service that allows you to block unknown callers. All I had to do was give them the number of my phone, and they set up a profile for me. The way it worked was that if anyone called me and their number was unregistered to their name, my phone would automatically send a message saying, "Your call cannot be completed as requested." And if anyone tried to message me, their message would be automatically blocked. Not long after this, I started to get text messages from numbers that I actually recognized. They were all from my ex-boyfriend. He was calling me from his mother's phone, his father's phone, his sister's phone. He was even calling me from his friends' phones. All of these text messages were the same as the ones that I had gotten before. Accusations, name-calling, threats, and sometimes they were just plain sadistic. You think you're so smart, don't you? Blocking my calls, you think that's going to stop me? I'm going to find you, and when I do, you're dead meat. Those were the kinds of messages that I would get at 3 a.m. that would wake me up from a dead sleep. Even though these messages were upsetting, I knew that I was on the right track. I knew that I was finally free of him. At least that's what I thought. During the whole time that these text messages were coming in, I felt really alone and helpless. Like I was being tormented by this ghost that I couldn't see, couldn't understand why he was doing this. All I knew was that I needed to get away from my phone, so I did. I took a vacation from social media. I took a vacation from my job. I took a vacation from my friends, my family, everything. I didn't want to hear any outside noise. I just wanted the tormenting to stop, but it didn't. One day I was getting stuff from the mailbox outside and I noticed that underneath the door there was a slot. It was the perfect size for a piece of paper. I opened the door and I stuck my head inside. The walls were covered with these weird-looking symbols and writing. It looked like a secret passageway. Poked my head through the slot and I saw a hole. I took a deep breath and I crawled through the hole. And that's when I realized that something was living in my closet.